Good evening. Welcome to the program. David Moulton sends up a SOS signal. Everybody's got SOS signals tonight. A lot of that going on. Program tonight is Buddy Martin Show. Is Sweet and Sour Edition. We're always glad to have Ali Peek Wilbur and her successful podcasts, doing great guns, big numbers. And there's David Moulton, who says he's kind of lost. We'll get in the link, and Franz Beardon will be along later to kind of put this thing in perspective. I just can't keep up. I can't keep up. True TV, I remember that. Got to go to True TV to watch the basketball. You guys keep us up. That's what you do well here on this program. We thank you for joining. I'm very grateful tonight to have this program. I'm very grateful to have you listening and watching. And stand by. We'll be underway in just 1 second. Tell your friends and neighbors the Buddy Martin Show is now officially on the air.
It's time again for Buddy Martin. Call him up and tell him what you're thinking. But be kind because he's doing the best he can.
Better, stronger, faster.
Mama says that alligators are ornery because they got all them teeth but no toothbrush.
Hey, what if the voice calls while you're gone?
Take a message.
Bye.
You ready, champ?
I'm ready for this my whole life.
I'm incapable of small talk. But that's why you love me, right?
Kind of intimidating to be in the presence of so many great athletes.
Right to the orange and blue room. She's playing with pain tonight. She's got a splitting headache, and then I'm sure I'm not helping it any. Hard enough job to raising two sets of twins, and we're just grateful always to have Ali Peek Wilbur, who just reached her 10,000th subscriber on A Peek Inside the Gators. Ali, did you ever think it'd be this successful?
Well, I honestly had no idea what to expect, but it's been fun so far, and I'm excited to keep going into year 2 and see how much more we can grow it.
Well, just one more quick. Well, I send David the link. I guess twice wasn't enough. I got to send it again. Will you just repeat how you started? Because so many people want to know why. Why you've been so successful. And by the way, I guess it was your 10,000th subscriber. Is that right?
Yeah, so we got our 10,000th subscriber a couple of days ago. So I'm excited. That was kind of one of the milestones that I wanted to hit. And so we did. We accomplished that goal. So I'm excited about it. And, I got started on the YouTube channel because I did a podcast with a friend who's a Knoll, and it was called Peak to Pit. And so it was Florida and Florida State. And we had so much fun with it, but I think it was kind of hard to maintain an audience for the whole time because people were either interested in the Florida stuff or the Florida State stuff. And then, about the same time, he started a YouTube channel and had a lot of success. And he was like, you need to do this for Florida. It's, there's an open market for it. And so we did. And, it's been pretty successful.
Well, you kind of skipped over a bunch of things there. Like it was just like going out a day in the park and having a picnic. You did more than that. How did you ever figure out where to go? I mean, listen, I've been doing this a while. And I know how hard it is. And you just walked right on in there and said, okay, I'll go to the plate. Let me give me the bat. I'll go do this. The next thing you know, and let me just say I know why, because you're very knowledgeable. You make a good presentation. I think a lot of your work. People get tired of me bragging about you on the air, but the fact is, I love to see young people doing well. And I think you become, I don't want to give you the big head, I think you become a bit of a force now, a voice. And right now we need more voices in the media because they seem to have diminished other places. I think your voice, and with clarity, and by the way, with objectivity, and you're hard on them when they deserve it, which I like, very important. So you kind of glossed over that part.
Well, I think, so this wasn't totally out of left field, right? Prior to having children, I have a a telecommunications news degree from UF. I've always been interested in sports. I, covered high school and college football. for several years, I did a drive time radio show in Orlando. I've done some TV. I've done some writing. It's not completely out of left field, but when I had my older set of twins, I just kind of put on pause, right? Every once in a while.
How do you put it? You put your twins on pause?
No, I put the career on pause, right?
I
put the sports stuff on pause. And every once in a while, like Spectrum would call and ask me to do sideline for the high school state championships, or I'd every once in a while write a piece for somebody. But for the most part, I, put that aspect of my life on pause. And so it was kind of, I don't know, a little bit cathartic, I guess, to have the opportunity to do something that was really fulfilling. And obviously being a parent is incredibly fulfilling. Being a wife is incredibly fulfilling. But this was something that was kind of for me, which, is nice to have something that is mine. And I care about this university. I care about these sports teams. I do try to be objective. Obviously, I'm a Gator for life, so I can't. You can't be 100% objective. But I try really hard to come from the angle of always supporting these athletes, but at the same time delivering criticism when it's warranted in hopefully a way that isn't personally offensive, but that is honest. If that makes sense, because I don't sunshine and roses if that's not what the situation calls for.
I think the survey shows that. I'm a journalist for life, as you know. I like to think I'm fairly objective, although at times I'm not. I don't think they want objective all the time. They want objective on things when you take the wrong side for them.
Yeah.
But the fact is, I think people want some subjectivity. The fact that you're bought in, your credibility is they know you're coming from a place that they are as fans. They're very passionate. Look, there's a whole panorama of different kinds of fans.
For sure.
Yes, and some are die hard, like Michael Bird, who's here tonight, and others. And, some are just passing fancies, and some are just there because they're there and not at all passion. So I think you speak to a group of people who want some loyalty. Mm-hmm. They want family. It's okay for me to criticize, but don't come in here from Texas and in Oklahoma and start criticizing SEC boys. By the way, I wrote a piece about, I'll talk about tonight, the series going about with the SEC expansion and how the cowboy culture is going to try to kind of run things in the SEC. But anyway, so there's dancing around. But I'm just going to say, leave it at this. I like your work. I think you do a terrific job, and I love listening to your podcast. And you can tell folks again how to get it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Go to YouTube and just
or
Google Ali Peek Wilbur or Google. Tell them, so I don't get it wrong.
A peek inside Gator football on YouTube. It's pretty easy. We, I went back and counted because we also just hit our 1 year, and we had done like 275 videos or something, and I was like, man, there's a lot of videos over the course of the year. I'm not sure that there's anything else in my life that I did 275 times.
Wow, that's
maybe
amazing.
My children in that many times, but it was really it's fun, it's fulfilling, it's and I love talking Florida sports with people that care about this university, and so it's allowed me to have a platform for that, which has been really cool.
Very good. And by the way, things have changed dramatically. Like I've been a long time ago started doing remote broadcasts from Gainesville. So many, I hate to even think about the years and where I've done them from everywhere. Michael Beardon says, set up a tent for your show. You should team up with the Gator Bait next to your tent. Well, I don't think Allie's got a tent. I'm sure she gets it. She does some tailgating. I don't do the tents anymore because, first of all, getting Wi-Fi is impossible. You're just getting communication. You got to be where you can get Wi-Fi now. It's a different deal. So the old days of tailgating and broadcasting and what have you are gone. So, but it's fun to be there. Will you be at many games?
I hope so. I mean, we have season tickets. We made it to every game but one last year. So I would assume more of the same. We'll definitely be at the spring game now that's back where it belongs on a Saturday. So,
amen. And it's called the Orange and Blue game. Yeah, thank you.
It's called the Orange and Blue game. And I'm so excited. I really didn't love the move to Thursday night. I understand the argument that it was for recruiting purposes, but I still don't love it. And I think it took away from what the spring game is for a lot of families. And so I'm glad that it's back where it belongs.
Yeah, for sure. Listen, good night to my wife. Good night, honey. Okay. No, you can leave it on. Thank you. So a little housekeeping business there. So the fun is, look, the fun was, and we had a great conversation about this earlier in the week. So old codgers, Scott Carter, myself, and David and I were talking about the days of the press box. Now, you were past that day, but there was I don't go into this, I won't not wax nostalgic again, but the day when you could walk into the press box and see the gods of sports journalism, right there, was really something. There were people in those days. There was no ESPN. Who cared about those guys? Nobody. The guys were the sports columnists, and they were the ones that everybody loved and wanted to have information. And some of these guys were legends. And as a young writer, I got to go in the press box with that and grow up with that, and I thought that was really cool and really fun. I remember how exciting it was. I used to say, go into the press box on a Saturday and say, there's no place in the universe I'd rather be today than right here in this press box on a beautiful day at Florida Field with colleagues and people that I admire and respect. It was a wonderful feeling. That's, of course, changed a good bit over the years, but nonetheless, it is special. And you caught the tail end of that.
I did. And honestly, when you say that, I think about when I used to cover the FHSAA state championships and Bill Buckhalter would be in
Billy Buck.
Mm-hmm. And that, and when I would talk to him, he would tell me stories like, he remembered my husband playing, but before that, he remembered my dad playing. And he would talk to me about, when he used to cover him, and that man had a mind like a steel trap, and the things that he could recite back from, decades earlier was just always astounding. But I got that feeling from him when I walked into the press box. And obviously covering high school sports isn't the same as covering the Gators on Saturday. But for me, I did it first in high school and then in college and then fresh out of college. So like this was the big leagues in my opinion at that time. And the press box was special. It is. There's something so cool about that.
Well, I hate to play the age card, but Bill and I went to school together. And in our class, we had Hubert Mizell, who was also in our class, George Solomon, sports editor of the Washington Post. There were 6 of us in the journalism class. And our professor of journalism of reporting hated sports. And none of those guys would admit they wanted to be sports writers, but dummy me. And I did that. But Bill sat right behind me, and he would make lists of the fastest guys in the 100-yard dash in the state of Florida. He has a mind of a steel trap, as you said. He also had his photographic memory was the curse of us all, as they say. And he, of course, he would love doing that kind of stuff. And Bill went to Orlando, went to work there. He's from St. Pete. And he wound up staying in Orlando and became a legend. He became a legend for recruiting information back before anybody did it. But he became an FSU guy. He was an FSU guy. Gator went over to the dark side. But anyway, good stuff. Well, I understand what you're saying there. Let's talk a little about this basketball team. David Moulton, I think, maybe is found by. Now he wants to know what time. What time should we tell him? 29. Okay. Okay, let's see. Let's do a couple of minutes here. I'll get you out of here because you got a splitting headache. And by the way, we'll have also Franz Beardon will join us in the back half of the show to put some clarity on this whole thing. Let's talk hoop because, right now, this is a team that everybody will love all of a sudden. Not just because they're winning, but they're winning hearts and minds. And what happened to Hand Gloatin was a heartbreaking thing. They play with such fierce ferocity and such purpose. And you just love the way this team. You wish the football team would play like this. And give me your take on what you saw over the weekend. I'm sure you watched most of the games and a brutal ending with Hand Gloatin, unfortunately. But tell me what you thought.
It is. I think it was so hard for this team to have come back after Micah's injury. I can't not only was it emotional, but obviously he's a huge piece of the puzzle too. So I you don't fault the loss. That would have been hard to overcome right there on the spot. But outside of that, I guess kind of puzzling loss to Vanderbilt, 10 days ago or so, this team has just been on such an upward trajectory lately. And, you love seeing the heart. You love seeing the passion. They play together. Todd Golden has been so fun to watch on the sidelines. Like he is becoming a Gator in front of our eyes, right? And I know that he's the Florida head coach, but I always sort of look at the new guys as mercenaries for a little bit. They kind of got to earn their stripes. But watching him chomp on the sidelines when he's excited was really, really cool to see. And, I think this team has the potential to make a deep run. I think they could make it to the Sweet 16. I mean, that would be massively overachieving, I think, for this team if that were to happen, but I think that it could. And I think that obviously we have done wonders with the transfer portal. That has been something that Golden has been incredibly successful at. And this team is fun and they are sweet and there's nothing cocky or overly confident about them. They just look like they enjoy their time together, which I think is cool. The only thing honestly that bothered me about the tournament and then the seeding is the fact that Florida was projected at a 7 seed prior to getting hot in the SEC.
Won twice and didn't move a bit.
Yeah, and that just kind of I understand why you play the conference tournament, regardless of the NCAA tournament. But I just there's no reward for going hard, and and when you look at the fact that Florida then loses Micah in that tournament, and it's almost like, shoot, what was the point? And it kind of gives credence when we watch these players sit out meaningless bowl games, during football season to avoid injury. Like we just watched that happen in real time and it didn't even help Florida any. It didn't do anything for their seeding.
And it didn't hurt Tennessee or Kentucky to lose. That's the other thing that hurt.
Which was also bizarre. And when they say Alabama was going to be a 4 seed and that was happening before the tournament, then you watch Florida manhandle them. And, it's weird to me that the seeding is set regardless of what happens to the conference tournament, because then what is the point? Why not just name a regular season conference winner and be done with it? I don't know.
Exactly right. They do some odd things. Some news today, and by the way, for those who follow football, they came up with the 2025. I can't keep up season. SEC. They're going to have the same number of games, so it's not going to go to 9 and 25. So there's just so much, Ali. There's so much going on. Another thing that today, another lawsuit. Clemson filed lawsuit. Now the ACC's filed a lawsuit against. What is this? Perry Mason? Everything's everything, including the news. You go over to CNN or Fox, you get the same thing about a lawsuit. Everything's about lawsuits. What happened to the game, Ali?
Yeah, we're seeing the changing of college sports just right in front of our very eyes. And, the ACC loses Clemson and Florida State. You would think they then lose an automatic bid into the playoffs. There's just so many repercussions that happen from that. What conference do these schools go to? The fact that the ACC, some of their arguments are about not being willing to produce documents that these teams agreed to, but nobody has a copy of, which is just the complete bizarre thing. And then you've got players that transfer out of schools for the spring, and now they've already announced that they're transferring back to their original school, which is just without repercussion, I may add. They will not miss a day of playing time, and we're living in very interesting times, buddy.
And now all of a sudden, Wade is a good guy after all the cheating he did. Oh, it's okay now, whatever. It's bizarre. I can't keep up, and I don't know who is the keeper of the flame anymore. I don't know if there is a flame. And every time I try to bring up something, but it is their old school thing. So I'm sorry, I'm old fashioned in that regard. But let me ask you this: what player has surprised you the most? What player disappointed you the most? And how much more confident are you this team than you were before the SEC championship?
Okay, let's see. Let's answer that in reverse order. So Zion Pullen has been incredibly impressive. I think hugely clutch for Florida. I was just reading his stats. Let me see if they're still on my phone. 15.7 points per game. I think he has been incredible late. I think maybe Kugel is who I could say, or a little
Yeah, I
bit
agree.
disappointed.
He's the guy.
Not sure exactly what went on there. You read some of these quotes and it kind of seems like maybe he was upset about his playing time or lack thereof, and then maybe threw a fit about it. I don't know. That might be reading between the lines, but you would have thought he could have helped Florida in the last two games at some point. So something's definitely going on there. That's a little disappointing.
Yeah.
And I think that I am more confident in this team than I was prior to the SEC tournament. I think, again, the Auburn game kind of aside, which I really do think probably messed with these guys mentally, watching that gruesome injury on the court. I think this team is showing that they can finally finish games, which I think is something that they struggled with at the beginning of the season. And, even watching this tournament, we got down at the beginning of games multiple times, but then had such strong such strong second halves were able to, pull away. And that's what they're going to need for the tournament. They're going to need to be able to close out games. And I think this team has learned how to do that.
Well said, and I'll get David Moulton in just a second here. It is I just like, there's fun to watch. And we all know about their guard play, which is, everybody said, is the key. Of course, you can't play four games in 4 nights and still have good legs. And when your legs go, your shooting goes. And if you go back and watch that game again, which I did, the Auburn game, they were doing well until midway through the second half. And then they started missing foul shots and turning the ball over, which the guards never do. Yeah. And now, of course, you lost a big man. I don't know. I do love the way Condon's been playing. And I think they got Hoff off the bench. Kugel might still come back and play.
Sure.
How much different do you think it'll be not having the big guy, the rim protector, the 7'1", and Golden, who, by the way, is going to be there with the team. You saw the picture, I'm sure, of he and his parents in the hospital. What a great attitude that kid's got, man! Fantastic. And so we'll see how they, the win-win for the Gipper thing, and Franz Beard talks about how that plays out. I'm not sure, but I know the team was really fun to watch. Having said that, I have no idea what to expect from Boise and/or Colorado, although I still going to play. And we'll see how this team is rested up. Let's bring David Moulton in for a second, get his take, and then we'll hear from our sponsor after that. So good evening to David Moulton. The official Sweet and Sour team is back on the air. I wasn't sure we'd have them because Ali's not feeling well tonight. David was all mad at me because he couldn't find the link. I thought, well, we're just going to be Buddy and no Sweet and Sour tonight. But here they are. Sweet and Sour team is back. Good evening, David.
Buddy, Ali, I hope you feel better. Well, I have the Gators to the Sweet 16 in my bracket. I am concerned about the first round game, though. This group hasn't played the tournament before. The team they're going to play is already going to have a win under their belt. And I think they'll have advantage in the first half of the game, having already played. But, I said it, I think, last week or the week before on your show. I think if they can win one, they'll win two. I like how they match up against Marquette. Even if Marquette's star player comes back, he's not 100%. I actually think Marquette's going to be in a battle in the 2:15 game because Western Kentucky is very up-tempo. And I think Florida's going to watch that game closely. I think Florida's going to try to press the tempo with Marquette. But there's no doubt, that's a big injury for the Gators. It hurts their frontline depth. He's a terrific player. But they got a backcourt, and they still have 3 bodies up front that I like. And so, listen, outside of UConn, Purdue, and Houston, this sucker's wide open. Anybody can beat anybody. And as we saw last week when 4 of the 5 top seeds in power conference tournaments all got beat, quite frankly, even they could be beat too.
Yeah, and by the way, Houston got clobbered. So, and again, what does it mean? Apparently, Ali and I were talking. Apparently, it doesn't matter if you get beat, clocked in the conference tournaments, or if you win 2 or 3 games. And didn't help Florida. It didn't hurt their opponents, Kentucky and Tennessee. David.
I will say the committee's been pretty consistent about that in recent years, where basically they've got you slotted before the conference tournaments begin. And about the only thing they count the conference tournaments for are you could lose your way out of the tournament, or somebody like NC State can go 5 for 5 and win their way in. But that in recent years, whether you think it's right or not, the committee disregards the teams that they've already got in the tournament, what they do in the conference tournaments. They pretty much disregard them unless they suffer a first round conference tournament defeat and they're close to the bubble, they may go, we have to revisit this. Virginia made the semis of the ACC tournament. If they had lost maybe a round earlier, they probably don't get in the NCAA tournament.
Well, I don't know. I've quit filling out brackets. I'm just going to watch you guys because I'm just no good at this. Every year, I figure, I've been no good at it. I'm a colossal failure as a bracketeer. So there you go. But let me get a couple of things out of you before you guys split, because I don't want to get both of your thoughts on it. First of all, let's go back to a football subject for a second. We talked about it a little bit last week. That is that Nick Saban, fired a shot after he left and talked about the game being out of whack, etc. Now Kirby Smart comes out today and said, "Hey, I'm good. I'm not unhappy." Want to know what you thought of that, and are you think we're going to see more coach fatigue? Because I do. Alex, start with you, and then David, address those if you will.
Yes, I do think we're going to see more coach fatigue. And I think it's not just going to be at the college level. I think it's at the high school level too. We're already seeing how much more is added to their plates. It makes the job more complex. I think we also probably will see a younger generation of coaches coming up, this being the only way that they know. And so, adapting. I don't know that a lot of the old guys will have a whole lot of interest in fully adapting. I think that, we'll see exactly what happened with Nick Saban and just, it will be kind of an old guard to a new guard. Kirby Smart is on the younger-ish, I guess, end of some of these. Obviously, he's been doing this for a while, but he's clearly more adaptable than Nick Saban is to stuff like this. I also think that there's a great possibility that Georgia's just been paying players longer than maybe some of these other places. So I think this may be old hat to them just a little bit. But yeah, there is going to be coaching fatigue. There's just so much more to the job now when you factor in NIL and then continually recruiting your current roster so that they don't go elsewhere. In general, 10 years ago, even 5 years ago, it was like we woo the high school kids. And then once they come to us, then they're a small fish in a big pond again, and we don't really have to worry because we kind of have them. And that's just not the case anymore. They had to be so miserable they were willing to sit out in the past. And that's just not what we're looking at anymore. It's different. And then there's a money aspect to it too.
David?
Well, NIL now at the high school level is obscene. That's a joke. And I don't blame a single high school coach if they get out. Some have already left the state of Florida and taken jobs elsewhere because, as we know,
pay more. Georgia pays a lot more.
What job doesn't pay more than a high school coach? Honestly,
a high school job in Florida and Georgia is worth a lot more money. Those guys.
Well, no, but I'm literally though. Name a job that pays less than being a high school coach of any sport.
In the state of Florida, there sure isn't one. You're talking about.
I get what you're saying. But they also remember those also they can have a way of upping that through teaching classes and stuff. And I get what you're saying. Still per hour, no question. No question. I get it. I get it completely. I've written about it my entire life. I've campaigned for coaches' salaries since I was 25 years old, and I understand you're right. But you.
So I just wanted to get that out there at the high school level. I think it's obscene. I can't believe that they legalized NIL at the high school level. Quite frankly,
I agree.
For as much as I want the college athlete to get as much as humanly possible, to legalize it at the high school level, I think is literally obscene.
I'm with you on that precisely, and I wanted to say it. Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Back to the college thing, though. Kirby's a generation younger than Nick. That's important here. He's early 50s. Number two, as Ali said. I mean, does Georgia take a back seat right now in the modern game? What all the factors that are at work in 2024? Does Georgia take a back seat to anybody? Georgia getting outspent by anybody? Okay, Georgia have better recruiting tactics. Georgia have a smaller staff. So yeah, Kirby's fine. Kirby's just like, tell me what the rules are. Trust me, we'll be fine. I have no sympathy. I have no sympathy though for the big time college coaches and about how complicated and how tough the job is. First off, they now have a staff of 7,184. Okay, so I mean, literally, where before they had a staff of 12. So, and they're making unbelievable money. So Nick can bitch all he wants. He's wrong about a lot of the things that he complained about. He just is. I'm sorry. Now, do we all not like the current state of the game? No, it's unseemly. It's messy. It doesn't feel like college. That's because it's not. But quite frankly, it wasn't necessarily college before. It was just all done back channel, back alley.
Those $1,000 handshakes.
Yes. Now, not to the extent that it is now, and not everybody was doing it. And now, literally, you have to if you're going to get players, But I have no sympathy for the modern coach who talks about, how difficult it is. Then retire. And I'm sorry. I mean, honestly, how much help does Napier have? I mean, he's 60 between assistants, interns, analysts, what have you. I mean, seriously, tell me how. Literally, you have an army. You're getting to the point where you almost have one body for every player. Are you kidding me? Don't tell me how difficult this job is. And by the way, if it's that difficult, get an offensive coordinator.
Okay, got it all in one lick. I just want to get back to what we were trying to say earlier about Georgia. And I just heard this from Shane, who called. I did a show on Monday, and he was in Georgia. And he says the high school fields and facilities in Georgia are phenomenal. They're better than most colleges. They spent these schools up around Moulton and Tifton and up there. He travels, and he says it's just amazing how much money they will spend on their sports program.
Well,
and Shane was
Texas too, Louisiana.
Yes.
There are definitely some states that will spend on high school, and Florida has private schools that spend. You go and you see Jesuit High School in Tampa, and you're looking at an incredible facility. You go down to South Florida and check out some of the schools down there. St. Thomas Aquinas is second to nobody. I mean, there's private school. There's just not equity in the dollars that are in high school sports. But we're all on the same page about paying high school coaches. And it was absurd. Eric was an assistant years ago, right after we got married, before we had kids. And it was silly. It was like 27 cents an hour is what he ended up, making versus for the amount of time he was putting in. But the amount of additional time that the transfer portal and NIL has put, and not even just NIL at the high school level, NIL in college, but these players are relying on their high school coach to give them feedback and input and whatever else, is just adding so many hours to the day. And then they're having to work harder to get the players recruited because less college coaches in general are interested in you're pretty good, but not 4 and 5 star high school guys, because they'd prefer to take a kid in the transfer portal than take a 2 or 3 star kid for their roster. So these coaches are then trying to find college spots for their guys that want to play at the next level. And it's that much harder there too. I really do. I know that there's a push right now, and I know to have Florida high school coaches be paid more. And I know that the argument is essentially, where is the money going to come from? But I cannot think of any other job that we essentially ask people to do for free, which is what we do. And coaching high school football is a full-time job on top of whatever amount of teaching you're doing, if you are, All
right. Good points. Oh, listen, I know you got to get out of here in a minute, Ali, and I want to get you out, but I got to pay one bill, and then I want Franz Beardon to come in and ask. We want to talk about one question for everybody. What you think? I don't need your picks. What you think's going to happen in the tournament, and who's going to win and why. I don't need your Final Four that you want to. But let me tell you first about North Central Florida's newest premier independent diagnostic testing facility. One of the things that's cool about Titan MRI is you can now call them, make appointments after hours. And the games in the North Central Florida area, they focus on the patient. They have a great customer service experience, and they know most people lead a busy life, and they have regular business hours, but they're going to make it available other times by appointment, evenings and weekends, to meet your scheduling needs. Check them out. Go to TitanMRI.com. Find out all about their modern equipment and how they'll be able to take you, even if you don't have insurance, they'll take cash your card. TitanMRI.com. All right, let's go to the green room, now orange and blue room, and talk to our ultimate orange and blue guy. Let's get his basketball thoughts on it, writing some great stuff for Gator Bait. And Francis, good evening to you. How are you? Good to see you. And I'm going to do this real quick. I'll let Ali go. She has a migraine headache. Sorry for putting your information out. And then I'd like everybody to weigh in. First of all, let's just say, give me something on your picks. I don't want your Final Four, your insight, your special knowledge. Let's start with David and go to Ali and then to Franz. Give me about 60 seconds worth, David, or whatever. Just your overall thoughts, tournament better, worse, team we're not recognizing. A little insight there to the March Madness, David.
Okay, it's not my info, but supposedly here's the deal. If you go by analytics, there's only 7 teams that can win the national championship. Okay, and because apparently 22 or 23 of the last 24 national champions were top 5% in adjusted offense and top 10% in adjusted defense. So those 7 teams are UConn, Houston, Purdue, Arizona, Creighton, Auburn, and Duke. Apparently they're the only 7 teams who, based on the last quarter century, can win the title. So fill out your brackets accordingly.
Okay, I'm going to go right to Franz on that one quickly and then back to Ali. Franz, your response to that? Good evening to you. And do you have a score for the play-in teams yet?
Well, Grambling has 1-1 for the SWAC. Good for them. Happy for Grambling to have finally gotten a win for the SWAC. Duke has no chance. I mean, absolutely zero.
I agree with that.
There's 2 teams from the SEC that can win it, not just make it to the Final Four, but win it, and that's Auburn. And they'll play UConn in the Sweet 16 game, which just goes to show you the stupidity of the NCAA to put Auburn right now is playing better than any team in the country not named UConn. And you're playing basically a national championship game in the Sweet 16 of the East. Kentucky can beat anybody out there if everybody is shooting. If they shoot, and they have the it's interesting. The 2 best players in the SEC were named Reed Shepherd, who was a freshman, and Zion Pullen. Now, the 2 that got all the pub were Dalton Connect, who's a great player, and make no mistake about it, and Mark Sears, another great player, but they're not the 2 best players in the league. But those 2 can do it. Purdue is vastly overrated. North Carolina is physical enough to win, but they're kind of like Kentucky. They got to hit shots to do it. But that's essentially it. Florida, it could surprise some people even and get to the Sweet 16 because Marquette's not that good.
Okay, hold it. Go ahead, Dave, real quick, and Ali. She has to go to bed.
No. I'm pointing at France because I have them going to Sweet 16 also. I'm like, there you go.
Well, Sweet 16 is also my Florida prediction as well, which I think would be super cool. At 2 points, David, you mentioned Purdue as one of those 7 teams. And what a crazy story would it be? I don't think it happens, but what a crazy story to lose to the 16 seed first round of the tournament last year, come back and win it the next year. That would be, at least an interesting story. And personally, I am an anybody but UConn girl for this tournament because I do not want Florida unseeded as the last team to win back-to-back titles. So, if it's Auburn and UConn in a Sweet 16 matchup, War Eagle.
What do you feel like when they both the men and women UConn win? That would be something, wouldn't it? Amazing.
Here's the thing people don't pay attention to. For all the talk about how great Duke was and how great Carolina's been, since the turn of the century, UConn has won 5 national championships with 3 different head coaches.
Yeah.
That is the best basketball program in the country, bar none. And I got to tell you what, Danny Hurley right now is the best basketball coach. He's just like his dad was at St. Anthony. His dad was an absolutely unbelievable coach. Was a college coach coaching who was a fireman who coached as a part-time thing.
Yeah, let that Ali go to bed. Ali, thank you. I'll catch up to you later. Appreciate it. All right, go ahead, Franz. Finish up your comment.
But UConn's but here's why UConn and Auburn are the two best teams in the country. You name the style, they can play it because they have the personnel to do it. And this is what very, very few teams have. Florida won in 2006 and 2007, and let me tell you why. Because Florida had 5 guards on the floor at all time. It just happened that 2 of them were almost 7 feet tall, and Joakim Noah and Al Horford. But trust me, both of them were guards. All you had to do was watch them handle the ball and take the ball off the boards and break out of the pack, leading the fast break. And you know exactly what I'm saying on there. And essentially, these days and times, if you don't have people who can handle the ball at all levels, and you can shift gears if necessary, and you're just as good with a 4 guard lineup as you are with 4 bigs lineup, you're going to lose. And that's what Auburn can do. That's what UConn can do. And here's the thing about Auburn. They put Auburn as a number 4. Look at every analytic. Auburn is a top 4 team in the country. They are the only team in the country that is top 5 analytically in both offense and in defense. The only one out there. So, and I'll tell you one other thing they have. They got Bruce Pearl. Now, I know a lot of people think Bruce is a blowhard, all the other stuff. Bruce Pearl is one hell of a basketball coach. Not only that, you watch how hard the kids play for him. This is why Todd Golden is going to be a long-term, big-time success, the next Billy Donovan at Florida. That's the thing he picked up from Bruce. Find out how to make your kids play for you like life depends on it itself. That's what Bruce can do. Bruce, I guarantee you, Bruce is sitting there right now telling Janai Broom, hey, don't forget, nobody wanted you but me. Nobody wanted you but Morehead State. And then nobody wanted you but me. You know, you're playing for Auburn because Auburn wanted you. Did UConn want you? No, they didn't. And that's how he motivates people. And trust me, it works. It works.
All right, David, a lot there.
Franz's point about just how brutal the East is, I mean, between UConn, Auburn, and Iowa State, those are 3 top 6 at least, maybe 3 top 4 teams in the country, particularly if you start breaking down the analytics. I mean, you know, whether it's net, KenPom, Auburn's in the top 5 and everything, UConn's in the top 3 and everything. The worst analytics you'll see for Iowa State is 6th. I mean, you know, Iowa State getting the 2 draw in UConn's region, Auburn getting a 4 is absurd. They should have been a 2. All right. I mean, Auburn, UConn should be a region final, not a Sweet 16. The thing that I feel badly about for both Auburn and Iowa State, if they're going to take their shot at UConn, they're going to have to play them in Boston, which is going to be as close to a home game as basically the NCAA tournament can get for the regionals, because it's a very short drive and they travel unbelievably well. So, you know, it'll almost be a road game for both Auburn and or Iowa State. For what it's worth, I've got Auburn winning. I have Auburn playing for the national title, to be honest.
Yeah, speaking of traveling, and Bruce Pearl, he blows a lot of smoke, and I know he's done a hell of a job, don't get me wrong. But he's right about one thing. The fact that
Bless you.
The fact that the 3 Alabama teams have got to travel so far.
Oh.
You know, have you seen the mileage chart? There's a thing called the
you got
driving
4 of them in there. You got 4 of them in there.
Well, I see
Stanford.
3, Auburn, UAB, and Alabama. Sanford, I guess, is the other one. There's 4,
Stanford.
yeah.
And trust me when I tell you this, Sanford is going to pull an upset. Sanford is very, very – Kansas is down, and they're not going to be playing with McCullers. And when I tell you Sanford gets after it, Bucky McMillan is a name you got to remember. This is a guy who, when he became a head coach at Mountain Brook High School, wins 7 state championships in his 8 years as a head coach. And look at what he's done with Sanford, and they score 90 a game, and they run like hell, and they defend. They're good.
You know, I mean, I don't know if you think my bracket's crazy, but I have them and McNeese State playing each other in the second round, and McNeese in the Sweet 16.
A lot of people like McNeese, Will Wade's team.
Will Wade, you know, he just, goodness, if he just waited a couple years, you know.
Right, 1 year. 1 year.
1 year to buy your player, it would have all worked out for him. Now it's legal.
Would have been a genius.
Let me tell you something while I got you guys on here. Let me tell you something that is non-basketball related. I talked to 2 assistant coaches in football. One of them is retired. The other one is still coaching, and a third one confirmed it. Comment was this: if you don't have the dollars to pay your players, you will not win. Period. End of story.
But David's been saying that a lot too.
He said, the day when you can come out here and win football games, if you don't have Brinks trucks pulling up to your door every day with the cash to pay them, it's over. And I asked this guy this morning. He's retired. He's been at it a long, long time. 30 years as a Division I assistant coach. And I said, why did you quit? He said, same reason Nick did. You can't control this anymore when you got kids. The first thing they say is, what's in it for me? You know, somewhere along the line, we let the NCAA, in its infinite wisdom, destroy what we had going. I give my late friend, Buddy's late friend and mine, the late Bill Carr, credit. I call him the last Boy Scout, but he was true. He said there was something to be said about playing for a scholarship and being able to go through school debt-free and be able to come out with a degree that meant something. But we allowed it not to. And I blame the NCAA for this, because in 1996, the kids came and said, you're making us play football it's a full-time job, and we may not be able to graduate in 4 years or 5 years, and the school won't pay for it, can't pay because of your rules. They can't pay for our education beyond this for us to come back and get a degree. And they also said, hey, my knee injury didn't heal. What am I supposed to do with this? I can't get health insurance now. And the NCAA said, and Walter Byers and the subsequent perpetrators who called themselves the presidents said, screw you. That's where this whole thing turned around, and that's where the players said, well, if you're not out for me, I'm going to be out for me, and it changed the whole dynamic.
Yeah, there's a lot there, and we can never solve this. It's never going to come back like it was. I'm sure it was the same thing when they started free agency baseball, David. You know, people didn't like that it was going to destroy the system, et cetera. And, the people who are making the money, they're happy, and the ones that aren't, don't. I go back to that time in Destin. I don't want to make like Spurrier like the savior of the world, but he did throw his wallet up on the table and say, we can pay our players out of our own pockets. And he volunteered to do that, and he asked every coach to raise their hand. He says, the ones that don't, I'm going to report them to the media. And 2 of them didn't, and he reported them. And then these guys went home, and the players said, how come you didn't vote for us to get money? I mean, that was the way to do it. Take it out of your own pocket. You want to see something happen? And, of course, by that time, they figured out the cost of attendance. They had to do something, which is always the way it is about money. You have to force somebody to do something. And, look, I can sit here and rail on the kids all day. The coaches are just as bad, if not worse, in terms of doing it. And I know that it sounds terrible. We like to say these kids are greedy. Look, they all want to get paid. I wanted to get paid when I was a young guy, just like you all want to get paid. And if everybody else is getting paid, I must say, where's mine? So I know it's been an ugly dynamic, David, but it's something, it's what it is. The game has changed. You either play like this or you go take your ball and go home. It's just the way it is right now, David.
Well, I think the concern is, can the way we're doing it in 2024, can we continue to do that? Because I'm telling you, the boosters are not going to keep paying the freight.
Right.
The boosters, I think, are looking around going, we'll pay the freight for 2-3 years till you guys get your house in order and you start paying these players. But if you think that we're going to keep buying seat licensing fees and then we're going to buy season tickets and then we're going to pay for the athletes and all the TV revenue and ticket revenue is going to go to you, come on now. And then you're complaining you don't have the money? Well, what are you paying for? I mean, we're paying for the players. I mean, that's what I think, enough complaining. It sucks. Okay. But as, Franz meant, this is a quarter century at least in the making. Okay. Yeah. So, get it out of your system. But now we got to come up with a solution, and we need to do it quickly because I think the boosters, even at prominent schools, are going to say, listen, I'm tired of paying for this. You're the one. I'm reading these stories about you guys getting $75 million a school. Why aren't you paying for the football?
100 by 2026.
No question about it.
Is a conservative estimate.
Right. So why am I paying for the quarterback?
The SEC
so on the subject. Sorry.
SEC may be getting $107 to $110 million by then.
Speaking of money, there was a story broke this week. I want to ask you guys about it real quick, and I'll do a commercial here. But according to the article by in Orlando Sentinel, there's been a boost in the Gator budget to $4 million more. I think $4 million total. Was it $2.7 million, Franz, that they've added to the recruiting budget?
They added $2.7 million to the recruiting budget.
Yeah, all right. So stand by. We'll come back after this and talk about it. Jeffrey Meldon. Jeffrey, you do a show where you get asked a lot of questions. I've got one for you right now, okay, regarding how do you know whether your case is being handled right and what to do about it. In medicine, you can get a second opinion if you're not satisfied with the doctor's opinion that they have. And do you have that in law? Can you do that with lawyers?
Yeah, buddy. As a matter of fact, we get quite a few calls from folks that have signed up, particularly with the big box law firms that they do a hell of a good job of putting ads on TV. But after that, they don't really measure up to the way we try to create a client experience that's outstanding. And we're always willing to review a case and give a second opinion, just like with a doctor, because not all law firms are created equal.
I guess that's the normal thing. Just go to Meldon Law, Google it, and find out, and just give them a call. And like you say, if you come in, you get to see a Meldon. You don't get shuffled off to somebody else. You get to see a Meldon, and that's good to know because a lot of people don't know how to do that stuff, like me. And maybe you can coach them. All right, Jeffrey Meldon Law, they will fight for you. If you want to have a case reviewed, go ahead and give them a call, and they will take that on. All right, so David and Franz, the money keeps you. Listen, all we heard for so many years was, Florida has to get a new facility, right? Football facility. Got to get it. They'll never be able to compete. They don't get it. They finally get what's it, Franz? $90-something million facility, right?
About $115 million.
But by the time it was all added up, it was over 100. So they get that. Well, okay, we can expect new things now. Well, guess what? It hadn't affected things that much around there. We spent $100 million there. They keep adding. So, okay, now we got to have more money to recruit with. I get it. It's the arms race. I understand this is what it's about. But I'm like you, Dave. But if I'm a booster and I'm rich and they're calling me again about getting another quarterback, I don't know how far I can go with this. And when they stop giving, it's over.
First off, it's a complete waste of money. There have been many coaches that have come out in the last couple of years and said, all the money that we spent on locker rooms and on chandeliers and waterfalls and all that, we should have saved all that money and just saved it for the players.
Buy players.
And right now it is about buying players. I mean, the first thing the player asks is how much. And so why are you, quite frankly, I would not be spending a dime on facilities unless I need an entirely new stadium, which, the Gators may need. Okay.
Gators might too.
Right. But unless I need an entirely new stadium, I would not spend a penny on facilities for the next 5 to 10 years until I got caught up. And it's not NIL, it's pay for play. Until I get caught up, I wouldn't spend a dime. And by the way, I wouldn't hire 60 people either. Okay, I'd cut that sucker in half too. We need the money for the players. That's more important than everything.
Hard to go to his guy's house, and he tells you how hard a time he's having to put his kids through school. He's driving a Lamborghini, belongs to 6 clubs, and travels to Europe vacation, saying you got a money crunch. It's just not the way it is. Franz doesn't look like they have a money problem there, but apparently in the open market, it's a different story. Freddie Weeby's got a heck of a tough job there as the revenue officer for Florida Victoria. So anybody can do it, he can do it. But I don't know. The money thing, I understand how people get mad at the kids, but the bottom line is that if the money's there, the money's there. I want some of it, Franz.
Well, the kids, it's hard to blame the kids. When it only takes one person giving in and giving the kids all the money, that opens the floodgates, and the floodgates are open. You don't want to blame Tennessee necessarily, but they're the ones that gave an unproven quarterback while he was still in high school $8 million. These things don't make sense. It's kind of like I have yet to understand why, everybody doesn't put a cap on, but we don't have a draft. We don't have other thing. In the NFL, they do put a cap. They do have salary caps. They do have, baseball has its draft, and they say, okay, this is what you get in the first round. This is what you get, etc. And it's hard to do that for college athletes and everything like that. And we're at this impasse where now coaches have to decide, do I want the 5-star recruit out of Sop Choppy, Florida, who may be 6'7" and 401 pounds, who dominated everybody in Class 0, or do I want that guy from the Sun Belt Conference that made all conference 3 straight years, and he went there at 6'4", 240 pounds, and he's now 6'6" and 299 and can play center. This is the dilemma we're in, but it comes down to one basic thing anyway. Where do you spend your money? You're going to have to spend it one way or the other. You're going to spend it for the 5-star kid coming up, or you're going to spend it for the guy who proved it like in the minor leagues. I hate to call Marshall and places like that the minor leagues, but essentially that's what we have relegated them to. We're going to have to start rating conferences like, okay, this is a AAA conference. You got 4 major league conferences and everybody else is AAA. I hate to say it, but we have done that, and I don't know that the game's better because of it.
All right, guys, let's wrap it up with a little basketball. We got some great days ahead of us here, probably. Let me ask you, do you have a favorite Cinderella story or a favorite player or a team you've overlooked or an anecdote about the Final Four? I'll start with Franz and then give David the last word, okay?
Well, the team that I really hope does so well, but I think that the odds are stacked against him, is Dayton, because I love Anthony Grant, former Billy Donovan assistant, who quite frankly got screwed at Alabama, but one in the other places he's been, one at VCU, left Shaka Smart, a team that went to the Final Four when that was Anthony's team, and now he's at Dayton. And so if I have a sentimental favorite, that's it, because of his link to the 04s, et cetera, like that. And by the way, little Ricky Pitino, Shaka Smart, Donnie Jones, Anthony Grant, all former Billy Donovan associates, all of them in the NCAA this year. But Anthony would be there, and my second would be Buckyball, Samford. I love Samford.
All right. David, you get the final word.
Well, this is the sarcastic cynic in
There
me.
he comes. There he comes. Right.
I'm rooting for all the coaches who have gotten in trouble in the past for breaking rules. I'm rooting for Will. I'm rooting for Will Wade and McNeese State to get to at least the Sweet 16. All right. And I'm hoping, not because I, win money with my brackets, but I have Houston and Auburn in the national championship game. And I would love for two coaches who can really coach, all right, who got fired along the way for some, if we look back now, absurd reasons at Indiana and Tennessee. Okay, I would love for them to be coaching against one another for the national championship. I think it would just be the sports god's way of looking at the NCAA and saying, you see, okay, do you see the story now? Do you got it? Okay, now do what you need to do.
Now, I got to throw one thing in.
The Black Cat Final Four.
I knew Ned Sampson, Kelvin's dad, when he was a coach at Red Springs, North Carolina. Kelvin is a Lumbee Indian who could post up most Lumbee Indians, and Kelvin is 5'6". And yet every year, Red Springs would suddenly come up in January. They start the conference as part of their schedule, and in January, they've got 4 6'7" guys from Western North Carolina who all claim that their 8th cousin, 28 times removed, was a Lumbee Indian. And Kelvin comes about his ability to cheat. It's genetic. Trust me, it is genetic. It is inherited. He can cheat with the best of them, and he coached for Lacey Gain. He grew up for Lacey Gain at Pembroke State, and nobody could out-cheat Lacey. Trust me.
Okay, we're liberating all the criminals out there today.
Hey man, put the banners back up. Honestly, Memphis, UMass, Michigan, okay, Louisville, just take them out.
Jacksonville University.
Enough already. Please.
Florida 1984 football.
Yes, okay, and Florida State's indoor track national championship that was taken away because of one member in an online class. I mean, it's a joke.
It was outdoor. Florida kicked their ass in indoor. Okay.
Well, there you
Mouse Holloway. Here's one for you, David, before you go to bed. Mouse Holloway, our track and field coach, has more national championships by himself than every athletic program's combined coaches at the other 13 schools in the SEC. He has more national championships by himself than every other school's combined coaching staffs have.
I'll have a statue. Good stuff. David, thanks, sir. Thanks for coming aboard tonight, David. Appreciate it, sir. We had difficulty getting a link to you. And Franz, thank you for an emergency weigh-in and keeping us up to speed on. We're going to be relying heavily on Mr. Basketball to tell us what's going on. And do we have a score of any of the play-in games yet, Franz?
Let's see here. It was 13-12 a minute ago, and it is
16-14 Colorado.
17-14 Colorado.
Okay.
Interesting game because these guys are both former Gonzaga assistants. They take family vacations together, the two coaches. So anyway,
all right.
Jason
So I want
Moulton, Stanford's going to win.
All right, we lost David. So all right. So I just want to say, if I might, I want to just remind folks we have a little something up on the site tonight on Gator Bait. It's a little different, and we'll be talking about it a lot in the next couple of months. It's the SEC expansion, and it's all about how things are going to change culturally. And we get to go to Austin next year to find out what this fall. So I propose that there are going to be a lot of changes, including some of the drinks. When you're swapping some bourbon for some Texas tequila, and the favorite drink out of Oklahoma is our version of the Arnold Palmer. It's called the Roy Rogers. So we're learning about the culture of Oklahoma and Texas, and tonight's story focuses on Texas, and later in the week we'll have a more advanced story on Texas, and later on next week a piece on Oklahoma as well. So,
well, one thing about it is, if we're going to talk about Austin, we got to talk about two places. One of them is called the Broken Spoke, which has the best cream fried, chicken fried steak on cream gravy on biscuits. And the other one is Threadgill's, and Threadgill's is where Janis Joplin used to work, waiting tables while she was singing songs at night. And
Threadgill's then you'll be our reservations out there. Get us a table for the Threadgill's when we get out to Austin.
I know the good restaurants in Austin, Bud Light.
Yeah, my man Randy Harvey out in used to be sports editor in Houston, graduate of Texas, is also going to weigh in and coach us up on stuff. Francis, as always, good stuff, writing great stuff, folks. If you haven't seen Francis' stuff, you are missing it. Go to GatorbaitMedia.com and find out why we call him Mr. Basketball. He knows everything, and he shares it with us here, both in his writings on the program. Thanks a lot, Francis. I appreciate it, buddy.
Hey, let's take a ride while we're there from Austin down to Johnson City and get some of the best, without a doubt, the best beef jerky that has ever been made is in Johnson City, and we could stop by and see the LBJ Museum while we're there.
And we'll swing on down to Birmingham and go to the Bear Bryant Museum where we broadcast. Another story from the day. All right, Franz, thank you, buddy. Great job. Appreciate it. Franz Beard, and I just want to tell you folks how much we appreciate these people who do a fabulous job for us. They're our friends. They have a facility there in Ocala, second to none. They're working both on the city. They're back a lot of things. They've supported our program for 6 years or more. And they are also looking out for our health. They do a lot of great work there, and it has to do a lot with volunteers. They want your help. And, they do these clinical research trials to find out more about what we need in our communities to treat us and our illnesses. And those trials exist because they're bringing new therapies here and bring it to us safely. And they would not exist without the commitment of volunteers. So if you decide to participate with RentStar, you may receive study-related medications and procedures at no charge to you or your insurance company. You may gain access to new investigational medications or devices that are not otherwise available and receive compensation for your time and travel. RentStar Medical Research is dedicated to bringing new opportunities to participate in medical science to our local community. An important part of that commitment is helping to answer your questions about volunteering for a clinical trial. Check them out at rentstar.net and find out how you can be a part of these outstanding clinical trials. Thanks to RentStar Medical Research, seeking tomorrow's answers to the health questions of today. Thank you, folks, for listening and watching. Thanks for the sponsorship. And back tomorrow night, we'll have Orange Blue Boys right here. Our friends from Ben Troop to Franz to Lauren Meadows, all be here right here on the program. Thanks to Ali, thanks to Franz, and thanks to David. Good night.